welcome to the show. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new episode. So, 25 years ago today, we got the release of what was thought to be the final installment in the franchise at that time, Scream 3. Now, when this came out, this was gigantic because you're coming off two back-to-back films, new franchise popping up from the guy who had brought us Freddy Krueger, and only a few years prior had managed to bring Freddy Krueger back in a new and exciting way that actually took a different approach to horror. Everything was starting to become very, very meta, to where the characters in films like Wes Craven's New Nightmare and the original Scream could start to refer to the situations that they were in and how ludicrous they were, and that they've seen other situations like this happen before and what they needed to do to survive everything that was going on. Now, did Wes Craven do this completely by himself? No, but Wes Craven's New Nightmare and the Scream franchise definitely helped usher in the new wave of horror that we were going to start seeing between 96 and about 2008 or so is what I would really say. Like, we went through a few different eras between that time frame. Now, Scream is an incredible film. It absolutely revitalized the slasher genre, and that led to us getting other films and other franchises like I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, Valentine, a resurgence in the Chucky franchise. All these things seemingly came out of the big success that Scream had. And so, of course, we got Scream 2, a year after the original film came out. I've talked about before my love of Scream 2, that I think it is one of the best horror films that has ever been made, and without question, the best horror sequel that has ever been made. I joke a lot about all these other films, and I do legitimately love me some Friday the 13th Part 8 Jason Takes Manhattan. That is my joint right there. I am a big fan of A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. These are fantastic films. And of course, Dream Warriors got that Wes Craven involvement, which makes it that much better. But Scream 2 is my absolute, what I think is the best horror sequel that has ever been produced, because it took everything that was so special about that first movie and it just amped up the stakes at that point, which is exactly what you want from a good sequel, is to get everything that made the first one so good, but then just do that 10 times over. And that's exactly what it did. Not to mention, at that time, I was getting into the show Sliders and was a huge, still am, by the way, huge fan of Jerry O'Connell. And so bringing him in as the male lead, everything about Scream 2 very much appealed to me. Sarah Michelle Gellar was in it, which, y'all, we got a Buffy revitalization. We got a Buffy sequel show that has been officially announced on Hulu that's coming. I'm sorry to break away from Scream for a moment, but that's fucking ridiculous in the best of ways, y'all, that we are getting a Buffy show with Sarah Michelle Gellar coming back as Buffy. You better be excited for that, because this is so awesome. No Joss Whedon involved. So cool. But anyway, Sarah Michelle Gellar was in Scream 2. Everything about Scream 2 is amazing. And going out of that, I remember when I was a kid, and I guess I would have been, 7 or 8? It might have been 10, honestly. But when I got a chance to see Scream 2, because I didn't see either of the first two Scream films in theater, I got to catch them pretty quickly after they came out on VHS. Scream took a little bit longer. Scream 2 was definitely much quicker, though, because I was hyped. I was ready for it. When it dropped on VHS, I immediately stole it from my local video store and tried to get a friend to make a copy for me. The copy did not work, so that was karma on me. The movie did get returned. And I always laugh about that because it reminds me of the beginning of the film Masterminds with Vincent Kartheiser and Patrick Stewart. You remember the one where the private school gets held up by this guy who wants ransom for all the kids, and the beginning of it is Vincent Kartheiser's character downloading Scream 2 to pirate and to sell off to all these different people, and it's like this huge deal. And I always thought that was so cool because I loved Scream 2. But anyway, after Scream 2 came out, I think a lot of folks wouldn't have been blamed for assuming that when Scream 3 eventually came around, how good was it honestly going to be able to be? Because if Scream 2 really reset the status quo of horror films, slashers, and sequels just in general, what was Scream 3 going to be able to bring to that table? Now, between Scream 2 and Scream 3, we lost Kevin Williamson as our writer of these films, because Kevin Williamson wrote 1 and 2, and he really brought the connection that we had to the younger versions of those characters. You know, Sydney, Gail, Dewey, Tatum, Randy. You know, anybody who we got to see in those first 2 films, Kevin Williamson did such a good job of capturing that teenage and eventually young adult feel that we needed. They were talking about things that we all were talking about at that time frame. They were relatable, they were likable, and it was heartbreaking when some of these people turned out to be murderous serial killers at that point. And with Scream 3 coming around, there was no way we're going to be able to keep that childhood nature of the first 2 films. I think it's a reason why a lot of people go back to 1 and 2, and especially 2, in my opinion, more than anything else, because they're reliving that nostalgia and that part in their lives to where they kind of picture that maybe that's what life would eventually turn into. And when Scream 3 came out, again, the funny thing is that I remember seeing maybe one commercial, one trailer for it before I begged my dad to take me to go and see it. And keep in mind, I had been seeing plenty of R-rated films at home by that time. You know, I talked about how my parents had let me rent Child's Play back in like the mid-90s, and that kind of was like, that was the opening the gate. We're all going downhill from here. But up until that point, my parents had never taken me to go see an R-rated horror film in theaters before. And again, I'd seen plenty. I saw Alien Resurrection in theaters. I saw Titanic in theaters, all these other ones. But a lot of those came because I was working at the theater that in the town in Australia that I lived in at the time. I had yet to have my parents actually take me to an R-rated film. And so Scream 3 comes out, and a month prior, my dad and I had just seen Any Given Sunday, which was such an incredible experience. My favorite sports movie, favorite football movie, such an incredible film. See if you haven't got a chance to yet. But my dad took me to go see this. It was such a big thing for me because me and my dad didn't really go and see a lot of films together with just the 2 of us. So the fact that, you know, me and him went and saw Any Given Sunday a month prior to that, and now we're going to go see something for me, it was the coolest night of my life, y'all. A franchise that I hadn't gotten to see either one of the previous installments in theaters, and I was getting to go opening weekend with my dad to go and check this out. And y'all better believe, as much as people crack on Scream 3 not being that scary, y'all are some fucking liars. There are some genuine scares in that film. First of all, I've said it on this show here before, but the Sarah Darling kill, Jenny McCarthy, is one of the best kills in the entire franchise, because it's still off the top of my head the only kill we've gotten to where Ghostface has called the victim as himself or herself or theyself, like whoever they are, and then switch to Ghostface mode. We are so used to in this series to where the killer masquerades as somebody else, where they break the voice changer and it turns out to be Ghostface in this case here. But there's something terrifying about Scott Foley's Roman Bridger calling Sarah Darling in the studio and going over all these things and then immediately switching into Ghostface mode. That's terrifying. The kill itself, sure, whatever, but the build up to that was so fantastic. And then all these other little bits which I was able to appreciate more because I was older. Carrie Fisher appearing in Scream 3 is legendary. Jay and Silent Bob being in there, which puts the Scream universe or the Scream franchise in the View Askew-averse. That does not get talked about enough, that all these films have to take place in the View Askew-averse for the simple fact that Scream 3 is going on at the same time as Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. That is a connection that so many people don't even think about, that I so feel that Kevin Smith, of all people, should have followed up on and still should be following up on 25 years later. There's something so unique about this movie, and the fact that it is very poignantly feels different from 1 and 2. It's very much adult feeling compared to the younger teenage feeling we get from those first 2 films. And that's why it pains me that people don't like it as much as all these other films, because there's plenty to like. I feel that it is the right movie for the crowd that all of us were growing into around the time that it came out. And of course, Scream 4 comes out years and years later, and we get back to what y'all really enjoyed about 1 and 2, focusing on that younger crowd, bringing the teenagers back, and all of that is really good. I love love the Scream franchise. There is not a sour note in there at all. But on the 25th anniversary of Scream 3 coming out, and as we're heading into production of Scream 7, it's already begun. It's going for a couple weeks at this point. We're seeing all these familiar faces come back. Specifically, Scott Foley is coming back here. No Patrick Dempsey, but we get Scott Foley back into things here. And I want folks to take a reevaluation of their hate of Scream 3 and just realize that not every film has to outdo one of the best horror films and the best horror sequel of all time. You don't need your movies to always do that. Scream 3 is still such a solid entry, and I do feel that there is still so much to love and enjoy about it. Y'all can go check out my review of the assembly cut of Scream 3 right now. I got a chance to catch that a couple of years ago. It just increased my love for this film and for this franchise. And that assembly cut adds a few more scares and a different tone to it for those of y'all who might not be a big fan of the original cut. Either way, check out Scream 3. Not only was it the first horror film, R-rated horror film I got to see in theaters, it's also one of the first DVDs I got a chance to rent and enjoy as well too. I remember looking at that What If video by Creed so much, and then the alternate openings with Todd and Weary as well. So much goodness in that, y'all. But I'm curious. Tell me about it in the comment section, what it is that you don't like about Scream 3 as we celebrate this great anniversary. I want to know all about it. So y'all let me know. Let's chat about it here. And stay tuned, because tomorrow on the show, I am bringing my boy James from the Mark It Down podcast, and we are discussing the casting situation with Scream 7. There's so much going on with that right now, and James was the guy that I had to bring on to discuss with this. So hit that subscribe button, folks. Get subscribed to my link tree at linktr.ee/tscarymovie. That'll give you access to the YouTube page for video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms for audio-only versions of the show, my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings throughout the year, to my TikTok page where you can catch full episodes and then short content including movie news and movie premieres, my Twitch page for horror gaming, and my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop. Hit subscribe, folks. I don't want you to miss all the great stuff I have coming your way soon, including Heart Eyes, Mayfair Witches, Dexter Original Sin, Yellow Jackets, so much more coming for you, folks. Don't miss out. But that's it tonight, y'all. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.